Hello, everyone, and welcome to my 2024 Chicago First-Time Homebuyer Guide. My name is Anastasiia, and I'm a real estate broker at Vesta Preferred Realty in Chicago, and I work with first-time homebuyers all the time. The main steps we will talk about today will be pre-approval, finding your perfect criteria, finding perfect representation, seeing properties, negotiating on properties, and being under contract. Before we get to all of this, I'd like to preface this with a step 0 if you must, which will just outline nature of Chicago market and market trends of 2023, because I think that will be useful. Filming this in the beginning of 2024, I'm sure you've all read multiple real estate articles by now, heard a lot of contradictory news. And the reason for that is a lot of the news that you hear is national, and what may be happening in the nation, Chicago could be performing a little differently. While states like Florida, Arizona, Utah, Texas, California, North Carolina, other states were experiencing a lot of people moving to these states during early stages of COVID, which drove market prices up. Chicago was quite opposite. People were moving out of the city because nobody wanted to live in a city where everything is closed. You just live in your small condo, you don't have space, and you have nothing to do. So people were moving out of the city. Now we're seeing something quite different. People are moving back. Our going back to office rates are almost at 70% on the peak days already. And what that means is there is more demand in real estate in the city of Chicago, again, which is great. Another thing that happened around 2022, 2023, and it will continue happening. Rental market was significantly down during COVID. And once people started moving out, some of the sellers that could not get the price they wanted for their homes ended up renting out their homes instead, which drove inventory down, hence the prices are slightly up. Does it apply to every part of the city? No. This is another part to consider here. Markets in South Loop, near North Side, Gold Coast, Streeterville are performing very differently from markets like Lincoln Park, Lakeview, Wicker Park, Bucktown, Roscoe Village, and so on. So whenever you are looking at market values, don't just read an article and make a conclusion about the real estate market in a whole. Look at your market, your areas, your zip codes, and make an educated decision on what you think about that. All right, so the first step is getting pre-approved, and you probably heard that one before. One of the most common misconceptions I hear is, well, I'll just look at places, I'll find the one I like, I'll get pre-approved, what's the problem? Well, there's a couple. Number one is, it is important to know exactly how much you can afford. Online calculators are phenomenal. I use them all the time too, but they don't know your exact credit score. They don't know your exact debt to income ratio, your other bills, your student loans, and so on. Knowing exactly what numbers you are comfortable with, and I'm not only talking about purchase price, I'm also talking about taxes, I'm also talking about HOAs, which differ significantly in the city as well, can be super helpful to you. If your price point should be $450, but you have been looking in $500 range, you cannot unsee that $500,000 house, and it's not very helpful to the mindset. The second reason being is we are in a very competitive market. The closer we get to the springtime, the more competitive the market will get. Without having a pre-approval in hand, you cannot submit an offer on a place that you love. You do not want to be in a position, and sometimes it happens, where it takes you a couple days to get your ducks in a row, and then by that time the property is under contract. The third reason is too, because the marketplace is so competitive right now, we are seeing sometimes you may need to present pre-approval even before getting through the door if the property is on off-market, private market, and it's always good to be able to see the whole inventory. How do I choose a lender? Well, talk to as many as you can. A good place to start is always your bank, where you bank with, maybe a community bank or credit union, and a mortgage broker, and you can compare the answers. You do not have to go with a lender that you got pre-approved with. You can get 27 pre-approvals from 27 different lenders if you wish to do so. There's no obligation. Pre-approval process is free, and you usually have about 90 days for how long this pre-approval will last, and it's fairly easy. Usually takes about just rerunning your credit to update this if nothing else changed. One advice I can give you here is don't only ask about the rate, but ask for a good faith estimate, GFE, that will show you all the fees associated with your pre-approval, the closing costs, the points, title fees, and so on. And based on that, you can make an educated decision too. Because sometimes the rates may be lower, but you are paying for it. Sometimes you don't know you're paying for it. So be educated. All right, let's do step 2, which is understanding your criteria. And yes, I am placing it this high even before choosing the right agent, because there is nothing harder for me as an agent than to look for a product for you when you don't know exactly what it is you're looking for. Maybe I want to live in the city, maybe I want to live in the suburbs, maybe I want a townhome, maybe I want a condo, maybe I want a glass box with a view, maybe I want to live in a townhome with a yard. Without that, it's like shooting at the dartboard from across the street. You can theoretically hit it, but it would be much easier if you just zoomed in a little. Now, here are the questions that I like to ask my buyers in the beginning of their process, and maybe you can ask some of them to yourself to help you outline your requirements, nice to haves, must haves, and so on. First one would be the location. Do you need to be close to your job? Do you commute to work? Do you need to be close to public transit? Do you drive? Do you walk a lot? What's important to you? Knowing this as detailed as possible is the most helpful thing. Now, I'm not saying you need to know exactly where you want to live, and you can have a couple different neighborhoods you're interested in, even if they're not close to each other. But understanding in your mind what your first priority is, second priority is, third priority is the most helpful thing. What's more important, size or finishes? What's more important, being in a quaint neighborhood with a lot of things to do around you, or having modern finishes? What's more important to you, having a nice view or having amenities, and so on and so on and so on. Another couple things, do you need parking? Can this parking be indoor, or this parking be exterior, or do you need garage? Do you have pets? Do you need in-unit laundry? What are the HOAs that you're willing to pay for? If you want amenities, what amenities are the most important to you? All of these things, the more you know what you want, the easier it is to find what you want. Shockingly, right? And now on to the third step, just finding the right representation for you. Your real estate agent, your buyer's agent, will be the one who is finding you properties, showing you properties, negotiating the right property for you, and guiding you through the process of being on the contract. Finding the right representation sets you up for success. I know a lot of people don't think about it this way, but you actually make money on real estate when you buy real estate, not when you sell real estate. When you bought for the right value, you don't really worry about how exactly market's going to look like when you are selling, or at least not to that extent, because you already made your money and you bought at or under value. How do I find the right agent? Well, the thing with agents is every person knows at least a couple. So you can start there. You can ask for referrals from the people that recently bought. You can look for top producing agents on Zillow and Google and so on. And how do you find the one that works for you? And how do you choose one? Well, I would talk to a couple and I would ask these questions. How accessible are you? Sometimes it still boggles my mind when there are agents that will only respond to emails Monday through Friday until 5:30 p.m. and not do it on the weekend. We are generally talking about the biggest transactions of your life. So you want to make sure that whoever you choose to work with is accessible to you at the times that you actually need them to be accessible. Another thing to consider is what tools and resources do they have? Do they have access to private market? Do they have access to top agent network? Do they have transaction coordinator? Do they have their preferred attorneys and inspectors and their whole team that can help you be on the contract and make sure the process is going smoothly? How assertive they are. You should never feel like the agent doesn't want to ask that question or find out this tiny little detail that you're curious about. If you ever feel that hesitation, you can probably do better. And the last thing to mention is you have to like them as a person. And I'm not saying be best friends with them, but you will be talking to them a lot. You will be driving in the same car. You will be making chit chat. At least make sure that whoever is you don't dislike them. All right, step 4, finding the right place. So we are taking that criteria that you determined, and we're taking the agent that you interviewed and liked, and we're merging them together. Great. Now your agent knows what you're looking for. They'll set you up with searches. If your agent is not setting you up on a private market search, again, you can do better. What's private market? Well, private market, the biggest difference is that it doesn't syndicate to Zillow or Redfin. Why would seller want that? Well, a couple of things. They could be still gauging the price point. They could have strange work from home schedule, a newborn, 10 dogs in a place, something that prevents them from easy access. They could also have a property that's going to be in such a high demand that they don't want to have 17 showings per day from Zillow, and they would rather prefer 6 showings per day, but they come with a buyer's agent, they're pre-approved, and they're high intent buyers. If you're not looking at the private market, you're not seeing about 15% of the property, give or take. The properties will go under contract on private market, and they will get multiple offers as well. So if you're not getting this access, please make sure you have mentioned it to your agent or find a different agent. How can you get access to the private market? You can either be set up on the MLS searches, MLS being multiple listing services. This is where all the listings are posted, and from there they syndicate to places like Zillow, Redfin, Trulia, Realtor.com, etc. Or you can maybe have access to Zenlist, which is a platform that my brokerage uses and some brokers use as well, where it comes from MLS as well, but you have it in a better interface in the app version. The nice thing about it is too that you can message your agent directly, request showings, leave notes, and so on and so on. If you want access, I will have a little QR code in the end so you can scan that and ask for access. I'll grant it to you. My biggest advice when it comes to showing is get in there as soon as possible. We are making this guide heading into the spring market. Spring market actually starts in January, right after we finish our hangovers on this January 2nd. So we are already in it. We're already seeing multiple offers. We are already seeing best and finals. We're already winning some. We're already losing some. So making sure you get into the place as soon as possible. And I'm not talking like this week. I'm talking about this place got listed on Tuesday. I'm getting in there Tuesday evening or Wednesday morning. It can save you money. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say the place gets listed on Tuesday. You walk in there on Wednesday. You like the place. You present a really strong offer. And as a condition of your really strong offer, you ask the agent to take it off the market and not have to go through the open house that's scheduled this weekend. You can have a conversation directly with the seller through their agents instead of having to scream over 5, 6, 10, 15 different offers, different buyers on the table. Does it work every time? No, but maybe it will for you. So make sure that whoever you're working with is flexible enough to make arrangements for you to get in as soon as possible. And the last thing to consider are the core values and red flags. And by core values, I mean the things you cannot change. Those can be the lighting, the location, the school district, the layout, and so on. The HOA, the building it's located in, you can't change any of those things. Everything else you can. So once you're getting into this competitive market and the places that are completely move-in ready, and you like the finishes and you like the color of the cabinets and you like the bedroom finishes, those are already off the market. Sometimes taking a look at places that maybe they're not aesthetically where you want them to be, but they have that potential, could be the saving grace for you. When I talk about red flags, it actually in the same vein, because those are also the things that you cannot change. And they may not be that big deal breaker to you, but if you're looking at this purchase as an investment, you have to consider them for your resale. What I mean by these, it can be being a really high walk-up. We don't have that many 4-story walk-ups in Chicago for a reason. It can be a strange view, or maybe it can be a decent view, but you're overlooking a vacant lot, and then usually by rule of thumb is that if there is a vacant lot, something will be built there. You don't know what it is, could be a risk. It can be the building itself. Maybe they're going through a lot of projects. Maybe they don't have a lot in reserves. Maybe there is a high concentration of rentals. Maybe there is no interior parking for the product that really should have interior parking with it. And while you don't mind starting your car 20 minutes earlier and letting the snow melt off, I'm talking about myself right now, maybe your next buyer will. So keep all of those in mind when you're looking at places. All right, step 5, you found the property. Congratulations. What do you do next? If your answer is my agent asked me what I want to offer on it and I offered on it, you can do better. It is our job as an agent is to present this comparative market analysis to you so that we can look at the comps in the building, sometimes in the area, and make our decision on what the value is. It does not matter what the place is listed for. What matters is what the value is. The place can be underpriced to get multiple offers and get into the bidding war. The place can be priced just right to sell quickly. The place can be overpriced and sit on the market for 200 days. Just because it's listed for X number does not mean that it's worth X number. And it goes both ways, higher, lower. So once we work out what the market value is, we work out what our plan is. What are we trying to get it at? We are in the competitive spring market. We are trying not to go much over asking price. Our strategy will be different. It is October 25th. This place has been on the market since last August. We are trying to get you the deal of the century. Our negotiation strategy is different. We are trying to get you a deal, but they've been only on the market for 3 days, and so on and so on. You have to sit down, figure out the number you want to get to, and based on that, using the guidance from your real estate agent, you will work out the starting point of your offer and where you want to be and how you're going to proceed with it. Every property is a little different. Every situation is a little differently. So whenever you're talking to an agent, make sure they know how to navigate all those situations. Now I'll go through a couple important terms that you may need to know if you are in the market right now. First one would be as is. This one is really popular in multiple offer situations. As is means we are still conducting an inspection, but we are not asking for repairs or credits. This one is really popular for the sellers because they know that they're getting a buyer. And that's it. The hardest part is done. Number 2, be an escalation clause. Escalation clause is you saying, I'll pay X number over any other buyer. Great for the buyer. Not so great for the seller because it helps you as a buyer not to leave too much money on the table. They will not always be accepted. If they are, this is great thing to take advantage of to get a little better deal on the place in the competitive market. Okay, last step, you're under contract. Congratulations. Now it's time to do your due diligence. Now, first couple of weeks of being under contract seem very hectic. There is a lot of deadlines. There are a lot of things you need to do. You need to deliver your earnest money. You need to pick out your attorney. You need to schedule an inspection. You need to figure out so many things. But to make it easy, the first part of being under contract is called attorney review period. During that period, attorneys decide whether they want to make any changes, additions, clarifications to the contract. So we have, as a buyer, 5 business days to send out our requests. During those 5 business days, you have to conduct an inspection, and if there are any inspection items, you add them to the letter. What else is in that letter? Great question. Appraisal. It's not actually part of the standard contract, so we added in an attorney review. Any questions about condo documents, about any special assessments, about any litigations, any requests or repairs for the inspection, tax probations, all of those things are brought up in the attorney notification letter. Illinois is attorney state. It means that all the documentation is prepared by the attorneys. And before you ask me, yes, you need one. And yes, they need to be focused in real estate. Your friend's cousin does not work, even if they did 2-3 real estate transactions in their life. You're getting the biggest purchase of your life. You want to make sure that whoever is helping you with the process know this process from beginning till the end. Yes, it costs money. On average, attorney will cost somewhere between $600 to $900. That money is well worth it. Inspection. The main reason we do inspection is to see if there are any red flags at the property that we did not notice. Purpose of the inspection is not to have a complete renegotiation with the seller. And I know I will get a lot of hate of this, but this is just not. Sellers can also cancel a contract on you. It happened to me, happens to probably every real estate broker that's ever been in the business. And in a competitive market, you really don't want to be going down that route. If there are any things that you are uncertain about at the showings, we try to negotiate those things up front. So if you know that appliances are old, you try to negotiate home warranty up front. If you know the windows are old, you try to negotiate credit for that up front. The things that you can see and you don't know, then those you uncover during the inspection and you decide how to proceed from there. Anastasiia, when do I get to waive my inspection? The answer is never. Don't do it. It's really stupid. Please look at what you're buying. Another thing that is done during the attorney review is the appraisal. Now, that's another common misconception. The appraisal is done not for you, but for the bank specifically. Can you do it if you want to if you're doing a cash transaction? Yes. but you're not required to do so. Why does the bank do it? Well, they're protecting themselves and their investment in you. In case you end up foreclosing on the loan, they will have to resell your property. So what they're doing is they're making sure that they're not lending you too much money that they will not be able to get their investment back. What happens if the property underappraises? And that is a valid concern during the multiple offer situations when we are going over asking price. You have three options. Option number one would be back out of the purchase. Option number two would be to close the appraisal gap, which means you're under contract for $250,000. The place appraised at $240,000, so it means that the bank is only giving you $240,000. You have to bring extra $10,000 to make that gap. And the third option you have is to renegotiate with the seller, whether they lower the price by that $10,000, maybe you meet in the middle, or work out some other form of arrangement. Next big one, if you're buying in a condo, is condo documents. What do I mean by condo documents? Depending on what kind of building you're buying in, this will look very different for a high-rise that's professionally managed and it has full office staff preparing these documents, or for a 3-flat where there's you and two other guys and you're deciding how to shovel the snow and they have a snow day. But overall, when we talk about condo documents, we mean budget, reserve studies, rules and regulations, bylaws and declarations, and minutes from the meetings. Some condos meet once a month, some condos meet once every quarter, but the reason we want to look at those is if there is a roof project discussed, we need to know about it. They can't hide it from us. Whenever we get the condo documents, we try to get you a few days, like 3-5 business days, to go over those condo documents, make sure everything is good, you're fine with everything else. You can still back out based on review of condo documents if you are not comfortable with the state of the building. And of course, the most important one is called 22.1 disclosure. That one is usually ordered by your lender, and it is essentially a big questionnaire that's sent directly to the HOA's president, where they fill out any questions like litigation, special assessments, and so on. Usually, if something will fall apart, it usually does because of the 22.1 disclosure. Now that we are out of attorney review, we looked through condo documents and we are good with them. We went through inspection and we are good with the results. What do? Well, you wait for clear to close. And meanwhile, you're not buying a boat, you're not buying a car, you're not opening your credit card, you're not doing anything that will affect your credit score significantly. This is the only job you have. That's it. But don't say that I didn't warn you. Once we have the clear to close, we schedule the final walkthrough. It's usually done either the day off or day prior to closing. And then we have closing. What's the final walkthrough? The goal of the final walkthrough is make sure that the place looks the way that you want it to look. Sometimes it means it looks exactly the same way when you first saw it. Sometimes it means during the inspection the dishwasher was not broken and now we have to make sure it works. Sometimes it means making sure that the sellers moved out all their furniture and they didn't scratch the walls when moving out their bookcases, stuff like that. The things I always like to double check at the final walkthrough is making sure there's parking, there's nobody parked in there. That happened to me. Making sure that the storage is not still full of the seller's shit, which also happens to me. And to make sure that we have all the keys, including mailbox keys, garage clickers, storage keys, and all that other stuff, because sometimes those get overlooked. I want to make sure that when you close and you give away all your life savings, you have a way to access everything that you bought. If the final walkthrough was great, amazing, you go to the title company, you sign, like a lot of papers. You get your keys and congrats, you're the homeowner. You did it. I know it's scary. You just spent all your life savings, I understand. But trust me, once you have your first home, it's worth it. Thank you for listening. I hope you learned something. If you have any comments, if you have any questions, if you have any feedback, I'd love to see all of those. Again, my name is Anastasiia Korenchevska. It was my pleasure to be talking about steps of home ownership, and I look forward to seeing you all next time.